right, back on One Bills Live. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and joining us now, as promised, is One Bills head coach Sean McDermott, who just put pen to paper on a 6-year contract extension yesterday, and I think a lot of signs of approval from Bills Mafia and the fan base at large after hearing the news about that, so that was great, and we do want to welcome Coach in at this time, and Coach, obviously, we're not the first, but congratulations anyway on the contract extension. And my first question to you, Coach, is, and the timing may not have lined up right where you were around your players, but was there an announcement made, probably not by you, somebody else probably had to do this, knowing how humble you are, but did somebody else make the announcement about your contract extension to the players? And if so, what was the reaction? Because I'm kind of predicting or envisioning a jubilant locker room, people hopping up and down and going bananas.
No, the way that, social media works and media overall these days, the players knew about it rather quickly. It's a little bit unique timing with, the players in the building. Usually these things happen sometimes in the off-season months when the players are away. And so it's a little bit unique from that standpoint. But, yeah, the players found out pretty quickly and certainly appreciate their thoughts and their well wishes and everything. And it's going to be great to be able to raise our kids in Western New York for the foreseeable future, at least.
Yeah, that's one of the things I thought about when it was announced yesterday. Your kids they're gonna be Buffalo kids. You know that now. I mean, I know they weren't born here, but their formative years are going to be right here in Western New York. And I know that for me, I was a dad too, and all my kids are Western New Yorkers as well. That's kind of got to give you a sense, particularly in the profession of coaching, where you pitch a tent, you're almost like nomads at certain points in your career. Now to have that, right? Now to have that stability, you got to feel really good about your family having a place where they can really sink some deep roots.
Yeah, we've been, very happy with the community. It fits us, and hopefully we fit the community as well. And people in Buffalo, around Buffalo, in Western New York, couldn't be nicer. It's been a great experience for us, and just becoming part of the community in a lot of ways. Hopefully we're giving as much to the community as we're getting from the community in terms of giving back, and so it is nice to see our kids, to be able to get their feet firmly planted in the ground and make the friends that they've made and be able to hopefully continue building those friendships in the years to come.
Now, you and Brandon, seeing as how, you guys have kind of got to the point where there is going to be some stability in the organization. You guys have never wavered from your original plan of how you're going to build this, how you're going to formulate this roster, the culture you're going to instill. Does this give you, I know it gives you some validation for your plan, but does it give you some freedom to maybe now do some things you wanted to do, didn't know if you'd have the time to do it? Is there any kind of change in the plan, or does this free you up because of the long timeline to do some more long-term planning with how you run things or do things or whatever? Does it give you some freedom to do something like that long term with the organization?
Well, we've always had a long-term plan, and you hope and pray that you're able to see it through. And in this case, now we're able to have the time to see it through, and not a lot of coaches and GMs get that opportunity anymore. So we're certainly thankful and grateful for that. Overall, though, I think, just when you take to me a responsible approach, and you're a steward of an organization like Brandon and myself, being stewards from day one, to me, that's the responsibility that we've had to Terry and Kim and the fans of the Buffalo Bills is to take that approach that is in the best interest of the organization. And even though you do that, in the back of your mind, you're saying, hey, I've got to do what's right for this organization, even though I may not be here. Now we're here, and so, yeah, it provides a little bit more clarity, and there is a bigger picture approach to it at this point.
Coach, I know that this was going to be, you knew this back in April, this was going to be a training camp that was going to be very unique and probably unlike any other before, in light of the pandemic. How has it gone here for the better part of the last 2 weeks? We know that going in, the obvious goal is to have players so comfortable with these new protocols that they can focus on their job and on football. So how do you think it's kind of gone? How has the building and everybody around it undertaken this, and how smoothly have things gone to this point?
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, just watching, the building being transformed over the course of the summer months by our operations staff, Brian Bird, Brendan Rowe, Kevin Megang, and the many other people that have worked hard to get us to even open the doors. And now to watch our staff and how they have embraced the protocols and our players, man, just great examples of how adjustable we are as human beings and adaptable. And so we've really been able to get into a routine now as a team, which has been important for our growth in the early days and weeks of training camp. And what we'll do going in the next couple of days, starting tomorrow, is transition into our first real, practices where we're competing at a high level against one another.
And Coach, with respect to that, we're all familiar with the time constraints involved for you and your coaching staff and the personnel department to kind of assist you in making a lot of these roster decisions, and you're doing it with a lot less evaluation time and evaluation evidence to go on absent a preseason. So with that in mind, are you able to conduct proper position battles at spots where maybe it is not a clear-cut starter, or a true incumbent? Do you conduct them the same way you always have, or will there have to be some tweaking because of the time constraints involved?
Yeah, 100%, Chris. There's definitely tweaking. We need to be very intentional. We're always intentional, but in this case, we can't sit back and say, well, we'll see what they look like coming this Thursday in the first preseason game, or next week in the second preseason game. We don't have that luxury. So what we do have is an opportunity as a team to grow and evaluate. And so we need to be intentional with the rep plan every week, who's getting what reps every day, really. And then also when we do scrimmage, who do we really want to see? Who do we think we already know about? And then who do we need to see so that we can make good, sound decisions moving forward?
As a coaching staff, when you go through the preseason, you also get a chance to see other teams' preseason games. None of that's going to happen this year. In fact, you may not know who the 11 starters for the Jets are going to be on game in week one, and vice versa. They may not know your starting 11. How much apprehension does that give a coaching staff, not knowing exactly what's going to happen when they line up, and who they're going to have out there, what their personnel look like? And the same for you. How much freedom does that give you to maybe do some things unexpectedly in game one? Week one of the NFL season this year may be an unprecedented unveiling of some funky stuff, right? For lack of a better way to put it.
There's always, in week one, I think most head coaches, myself for sure, the unknown, there's apprehension around the unknowns, in particular of all years this year, and so not being able to watch a team, an opponent in this case, through the preseason, seeing what they're doing, knowing that all the while they're holding back, let's just say 25% of their playbook for the first game and second game, first quarter of the season, somewhere thereabouts, that there's going to be a lot of unknowns this year as we head into that first game. But what we've got to do is master what we can and control what we can, and get ourselves to a point fundamentally where we're ready to go.
Talking with Bills head coach Sean McDermott, signed a 6-year contract extension yesterday. Coach, you've used the mantra, find a way, with your club. The players seem to have embraced that wholeheartedly. You've also had to be creative. And I know Brandon Beane touched on this when he made Tyler Bass a draft choice in the 6th round back in April, but the clutch gene is a pretty important quality for a kicker at the NFL level. I think you know that Stephen Hauschka has that in his makeup. Trying to find that in a rookie kicker, absent preseason game-like situations, how creative are you going to have to be to try to ascertain whether Tyler Bass has that in him?
Well, Tyler, and then to your point, many of the other new players that are in their first year with the Bills, rookies included,
right,
across all position groups, because as Steve knows, there's no substitute for experience. In particular at a specialist position like kicker, plays kicker. There's been a lot of games won and lost over the years. at that position. Having said that, we've got to do our job, and I've got to do my job to continue to put him in those positions where we can build the experience level, build the reps, and then he can learn from all those experiences going into this to training camp, and then through training camp, and then as we close out training camp. And to your point, we've got a lot of confidence in Halsh and what he's been able to do at a high level for so long, in particular in those clutch moments. And so Tyler's a good young player. We plan to continue to expose him to those situations, and it's a good battle to watch unfold through the course of training camp here.
How's the health of the roster right now? I know that we haven't heard about it, positive COVID tests or anything like that, but also the football injuries. I know the run up was very gradual, and it seems like you're ramping up to, I guess, Monday, where you're getting your full padded practice in. How's the health of the roster? How are they handling the COVID tests and all of that? And I guess they're going to extend the daily COVID tests indefinitely. How's all that going with how the guys are feeling, how they're responding, and when they got on the field, how are they doing?
Yeah, Steve, the first part, as I pulled up to the testing site this morning, it's amazing, again, just to see how things have changed and yet how adaptable we are to finding new routines rather quickly. Having to pull into the testing site every day myself before we head into work, certainly unique. But again, just shows you how resilient we are as human beings, and this team, how resilient these guys are. They've done a great job. I just think that the health overall of our football team, our medical staff does a great job. Nate Bresky, Joe Collins, just to name a few that do a great job. Eric Ciano, our strength coach, and his staff, to allow us to monitor where we are in terms of the load on the players and what they may need in the days ahead. So I would say overall, probably like a lot of teams right now, and we've got a few strains here and there, but overall healthier at this time in training camp than maybe in years past. That said, we are going to get into the dog days of training camp over the next couple of days and the weeks, and I think that'll be a great separator for us as a football team.
Last one I have for you, Coach, with all the newness that everyone has had to undertake amidst COVID, one that seems to be an effort to help rosters is the expanded practice squad. It was already going up from 10 to 12 under the new CBA. It looks like you get 4 additional spots on top of that for a total of 16. Looking at that, how much does it change the dynamic of the decision-making with respect to your roster this season?
Yeah, we've already seen the impact that some positive cases can have on a team and a staff, just in terms of replacement costs, if you will.
Right.
And so, if one person tests positive, then obviously the people that have been around them, there needs to be consideration given to those people that could have been exposed. And so rather quickly, we can get ourselves into a situation, to your point, Chris, where we need to dip into that practice squad and bring a player or two up, and maybe in short notice. So that practice squad, I think the complexion you'll see around the league will have changed a little bit from strictly developmental to having players on that practice squad that can actually come up to the varsity and help in a short amount of time.
Now, it gives me. I watched a little bit of what they're doing in L.A. on Hard Knocks with the Raiders and the Rams and the Chargers, and how the protocols are. And I've seen it firsthand in this building, trying to come onto the property and get off the property. It gives me a little bit of optimism that the league may be able to. It looked for a while like this was going to be a miracle if the league could take the field, get regular season games in, fans or no fans. It really looked like a monumental task with a million obstacles in the way. But over the last week or so, I've started to get a little more optimistic that they may pull it off. How do you feel about the league's ability to get 16 regular season games in without a hitch and go to the playoffs and get all this done without it going a little bit sideways because of player positive, test positives, and all the things that accompany the COVID?
Well, I think managing expectations is important now at the forefront, where there are going to be continued positive cases like there was at the beginning. There's going to be some rolling hills and some dips and whatnot, and that's to be expected, and we all have to understand that. And The NFL, in this case, our organization in particular, has done a phenomenal job of implementing these measures, if you will, that, whether it's testing, different protocols we have in place inside the building, the masking that's going on, and then really the execution of it at the player level, the staff level. You walk around our building, everyone's masking up to the best of their ability. They're distancing to the best of their ability, and the execution and the discipline that's unfolded is, to me, is incredible to watch.
Last one. What do you tell these guys when they leave the building? I mean, the only hole in the bubble is them going home every night. What's the message?
Yeah, I tell them to go over to your house, and you've got plenty of room to spread out over there in East Aurora, and just they have to be. We all have to be responsible, right? We have a responsibility to ourselves, but we also have a responsibility to our community to do things the right way and to be responsible. I'm realistic as well. These guys, a lot of them are just in their young 20s. I know how I was in my young 20s. I'm a few years removed from that now, which I know you both are as well.
A few.
But yeah, it does take a sense of responsibility, ownership, and discipline.
Coach, you can come to my house anytime, but since you got a new contract, the rent is really expensive, just so you know. But you're welcome. Come on over.
Thanks for the time, Coach, as always. We know
Thanks,
you're
Sean.
a busy guy this time of year, so we appreciate the time. Thank you, and congrats again.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take it easy.
All right, Bills head coach Sean McDermott, fresh off a 6-year contract extension that he put pen to paper on. And, he had the press conference earlier today, and he covered a lot of his construction of this roster and the building and whatnot. But we wanted to get into it with him about how training camp's going amidst the pandemic and all of that. And we'll reflect on some of his answers when we come back.